Gas guzzlers, be they SUVs or pickups, are the sworn enemy of electric car fans and advocates around the world. They consume fossil fuels like it's going out of style. Actually, it is, and produce pretty high levels of tailpipe emissions. And they're seen by many as a major cause of poor air quality in our cities. And in some parts of the world, North America for a start, they're also seen as status symbols. They prove you've got plenty of cash, like living the luxury life, or in the case of oh so many pickups that aren't actually used for work, that you fancy yourself as the outdoor adventurer, rugged type, when you actually sit behind a desk during the day and binge watch Netflix at the weekend. I mean, even automakers who are funding development of electric vehicles by selling more pickups and SUVs, which, by the way, is pretty much every major automaker out there right now, aren't being given an easy time, with critics saying that automakers should be switching to electric now, not make more polluting vehicles in order to make cleaner ones at some point in the future. And to be honest, those critics have a point. You'd think then that gas guzzlers would be about the furthest thing you'd expect to be lending a helping hand to Tesla's goal of transitioning the world away from fossil fuels and onto clean, renewable energy. Yet, by the virtue of regulations and the good old free market, that's exactly what's happening, and Tesla stands to make around $2 billion or so just by continuing to do what it already does: churn out electric cars. I'll explain. Pretty much every major country around the world has regulations designed to encourage automakers to improve on the overall fuel economy of their fleets. These regulations usually take the form of targets that automakers must meet in order to avoid hefty fines. And while the current US administration has been working very hard to undo a lot of the fuel economy and emissions regulations which were laid out under previous administrations, freezing fuel economy targets rather than continuing to push them even higher, the European Union has meanwhile been setting targets that automakers must meet. The first is a 37.5% CO2 reduction for all cars by 2030, with a 15% reduction in emissions for both passenger cars and vans by 2025. In addition, the EU is requiring member states to push new 2022 fuel economy targets for all automakers that require a fleet-wide average fuel economy goal of 4.1 litres per 100 kilometres, which is up from 5.22 litres per 100 kilometres today. This, combined with the target average CO2 emissions requirement of no more than 95 grams of CO2 per kilometre that I previously mentioned, is designed to turn the screw on any automaker that isn't already making clean green cars. Automakers are responding en masse by making more hybrids, plug-in hybrids and electric vehicles, which help soak up the poor fuel economy of larger SUVs and pickup trucks. But some companies just aren't going to hit the targets without a miracle. One company is Fiat Chrysler, which, while it does make some fuel-efficient models in Europe, also happens to own the Jeep brand. And right now, Jeep models aren't helping it reach its 2022 targets, which is where Tesla comes in. Just as Tesla was able to sell its California zero-emission vehicle credits to rival automakers who weren't meeting those goals for a profit, helping its own balance sheet, as well as ensure the company purchasing them had a way of avoiding those hefty fines, Tesla's able to do a similar thing in Europe. In California, the ZEV mandate that proved so lucrative for Tesla allowed automakers with surplus ZEV credits to sell them to other companies for a profit. In Europe, meanwhile, the regulations allow automakers to team up in order to pool their collective fuel economies together. This means Tesla, a company whose vehicles produce zero tailpipe emissions and whose fuel economy far exceeds the targets, can use its figures to balance out the terrible figures from Fiat Chrysler. Apparently, the deal was struck after Tesla publicly announced it was open to such a thing, using its own zero-emission fleet figures in order to help someone else out. For a fee, of course. Fiat Chrysler took it up and voila, the deal has apparently been inked. After 2022, there's a new range of plug-in hybrids and electric vehicles being developed by FCA, which means at that point it probably won't need Tesla's help. But for now, paying a reported $2 billion to pool emissions with Tesla, will help it avoid some pretty heinous fines. And of course, it'll help fund Tesla, which already secured itself $2 billion this week from a split equity and debt sale as a way of helping it raise some more capital after recording $702 million in losses last quarter. So, until the regulations change, the next time you see a gas-guzzling SUV, just think, Tesla's literally helping it exist, and in a symbiotic way, the gas guzzler is helping Tesla exist too. That's it. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.